So I'm heading up Ben Alligan today in Torridon. It's been raining all morning. I'm here with a workshop group of guys who've been on quite a lot of trips with me, so they're all very capable hikers. But we're going up Ben Alligan. There's snow on top, no snow down here. It's a very popular mountain. It's a Munro. In fact, it has two Munros, Tom Nagrugach and Skirmore. We've had to time our ascent so that we have a reasonable chance of being up there, A, when we get a view, because the mountain is currently in cloud, but B, not spending too long up there because it's forecast to be 30 miles an hour winds on top and the humidity is very high, so no matter what your clothing, you can't really stand around for hours on end waiting for photos. It's just not practical. So we're rolling the dice a little bit here because maybe it'll break and we'll get something spectacular, and maybe it won't, but that's part of the nature of mountain photography. If you want to get the conditions that really justify the drama of a view, then you have to give it a go every now and again. We've done 250 meters or so of our ascent and the sun is just starting to pop out, so it's all looking pretty positive. You can see Ben Alligan appearing behind me there, so some of the clouds peaks still have caps of cloud on them, but overall it's looking a hell of a lot better than when we started in the rain. So I guess in 150 meters we'll start to hit a bit more snow, and it should get a lot prettier, but it's already looking pretty good. We stopped for a quick photo stop here. We've got really nice light spreading across the valley, and also a pretty decent view up to the peak that we're going up, Ben Alligan there. So we walk up through the corrie behind me, so we'll soon be in snow. But the view here really is pretty excellent as it is, so we're going to make the most of the conditions as they are and try and shoot a few frames. So I'm going to disappear for a bit and help people out and hopefully get a few shots myself before we continue on up the mountain. So Stuart behind me here has found a rather nice shot looking across these grasses. So he's really trying to simplify what's quite a complex pool here with the snow melting into the water, and he's just isolating these grasses with the background there, and he's actually found quite an effective composition. So I'm actually going to shoot it myself so that I can show you what he's found and why it works well. Having our lunch break in this corrie. We've still got probably more than an hour to get to the summit, but we've had pretty strong gusts of wind on the way up, so we're having our lunch here out of the wind before we reach the top, which is currently still in cloud, but it is looking promising. The clouds look pretty interesting. There's nice heavy cumulus and shafts of light coming through, so if the cloud level just lifts a bit then we should get some really nice shots, but it's in the balance at the moment.
you don't need slow motion.
So we've made it up to the summit of Ben Alligan, and we're more or less free of cloud at the moment, and the view is pretty sensational. Even though we can't see the tops of all of the summits, looking down into these valleys and on all the snow-covered crags is pretty special. So I'm sure we'll be able to get some good shots up here. You can see a few of us have ended up cramming into quite a tight spot here, and that's partly because the foregrounds are quite difficult. The amount of contrast you get between snow and rock in a location like this can be a bit of a problem, particularly when you've got such a spectacular backdrop. You don't want to create a lot of contrast in the foreground with just some random rock sticking out in a large area of white snow. And so this position that we're in now allows us to shoot down into the cliff. So we've got that foreground depth, but we haven't just got some enormous rock in the shot. It's a lot more broken, the rocks are a bit more distant, and so that foreground ties in a lot better with the backdrop that we have. This gully behind me makes a composition that I quite like. There is a bit of an issue with all of this contrast on the right hand side of the image, but you can also see there's a nice line of snow in the foreground, and the two together do frame the view quite nicely. So it works fairly well. Whether I will decide to keep it for my portfolio is very, very hard to decide at this point, because it all depends on how well this contrast is going to work on the right, and whether it's just going to throw the image out of balance. But it at least has some potential, and when the light came through earlier, I think I've got a frame that possibly works. So we're at sunset kind of time at the moment, but the sun has set behind a bank of cloud, but we still had a bit of warmth coming through on the mountains, which has made this view that we're shooting now particularly nice, although I think it's going to get even better as blue hour approaches. So we might actually stay on the mountain late tonight because the wind has dropped off a bit and everybody is managing okay. We've all got head torches with us, and then come down in the dark, because this mountain here is going to get increasingly side-lit as the sun drops below the horizon, and obviously it will become blue, but I really think it could make for a pretty special scene, not least because we have a full moon rising at the moment there in the distance. So it might be that our best shot is actually after sunset, and certainly I think this particular position we're in now is very good indeed. The sky's cleared beautifully now, so we've got those shots that we came for. I've got to say I'm really excited about this view over Ben Alligan. It's almost the perfect winter conditions to get those lovely blues and make it look as cold as it feels up here, and it certainly is cold. So glad there's no real wind. But I've turned the polarizer on the camera that I'm videoing with at the moment so that you can see what a polarizer is doing to the sky here. So if I just rotate it, you can see the sky change colour quite dramatically, and what that means is that we can shoot the hills over in the distance over there. So I'm just shooting a portrait frame. The snow here is entirely empty, so it's sort of juxtaposing that emptiness with the mountains dusting the top of the frame. So I think that's going to work well as well. But now I'm going to go back and shoot the main view just over the edge here with the moon coming up for one final time. So that was a very successful evening. I think all of us have got some images that we're pretty happy with. I mean, you couldn't really go wrong with this crystal clear twilight in one of the most spectacular mountain settings in the UK. But it is getting dark now, so I'm going to stop videoing so that we can just get off the hill nice and safely. We've got the crampons on just to stop sliding, really. I'm not sure that ice axes are really necessary because most of the snow that we're walking on is relatively soft, so nobody's going to end up shooting into the distance, so hiking pole's probably better. But yeah, we'll get the head torches on and head down the hill. So that was my second vlog from Torridon, and as you watch scenes of us coming down the mountain, hopefully that video gave you an idea of just why I chase these sublime moments, and that final image from the top is one of my favourites that I've captured in Scotland, as much as it's a classic view. Those kind of moments are the reason that I get up in the morning. They inspire me, they invigorate me to go out and do more. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and still those moments excite me just as much as they did when I started, and the clients can probably attest to the fact that I was grinning like a kid in a sweet shop on that particular evening. So it really was a fantastic day with some guys who I've actually come to know very well, which is one of the privileges of my job. But anyway, I thought I would finish with an image review, starting with this one, which has already had too much time on screen. More of a setting shot, really. A bit too much contrast, a bit too much blue, and this texture in the midground is just horrible. It's messy. The reflection's nice, and I like the way the mountain is sunlit. But apart from that, nothing much. This one has some potential. Obviously the light is pretty stunning, pouring over Ben Damp there, with an attempt to use this river as a leading line into the view, which kind of works, but there's really two pools here rather than a continuous flowing river, and there's really no connection between this and the view. There's not the lead outline that I would ideally like, and it feels a bit unbalanced too, so yeah, it's a nice shot, but certainly not one from the portfolio. This is the shot approximately that Stuart was shooting, and when I saw where he was with his camera, I knew what his idea was, although I think originally he was shooting this the front edge of the pool here, which I suggested he leave out. But I like the symmetry of this shot and the simplicity. You've got an almost infinity pool idea with this pool running right to the edge of the slope, and I just like the way this arcing line frames the mountain here. I really think that that's a lovely simple composition, and one which I would have shot myself had I seen it first. There's a few detail issues to clear up here, and I didn't bother to focus correctly because I saw it as Stuart's shot, really. But these white grasses here do draw the eye a little bit, so I'd probably work just to reorient it slightly. But a nice scene, very nice scene. This was the first scene I shot when we got on top of the mountain, and the light was just too strong at this point. The blue sky at the top is the most saturated thing in the image, other than these shadowed areas, so that draws the eye. But there's this big pool of shadow around the mountain, so the softer light we had later was far preferable. And then I didn't really make any sense at all of this foreground. I was really looking for the most simple foreground I could find, but these rocks were jutting out everywhere, and this one here is probably a particular problem. So yeah, again, it's fine, but not for the portfolio. This was the image I was talking through, looking down the slope there. I think it's a bit of an improvement on that previous image, but again, actually balance-wise, it doesn't work that well. So I think I've taken care of the foreground to a degree. I certainly prefer the way that this is broken up, but it kind of dominates the shot still. This huge swathe of snow, and with a crop. So if I were to crop along the bottom edge here, then it just introduces loads of edge issues, and I mean, maybe that would be slightly better, but either way, it was a shot that I tried that I think helped, but still not quite there. This was the framed shot that I actually shot
a bit before I recorded the video. This is quite nice, but I think I improved both the composition and the lighting later. This was maybe half an hour after I recorded that clip, and the little splash of light coming across the mountain here really adds a lot of depth, and the clouds are a lot more brooding. So I really quite like this one. That could well end up in my portfolio. This was a long lens shot that I took. You can actually see it's a subset of this scene. So it's a little section just in here. One thing to keep in mind when you're in overcast conditions, albeit there's some sunlight coming through at the back here, is that cloud density can have a great effect on the kind of colours that are cast onto the landscape, particularly as sunset approaches. So you can get this amazing transition from warm or whites to dark blue colours in the more shadowed areas of the landscape. You can get this fantastic layering effect. So although the sunshine here is the icing on the cake, I think it would have been a nice shot without it. What I would say though is that I've got a portrait version of this shot, which was a bit more like this, roughly speaking, which I think compositionally is probably better. But unfortunately the light had gone at that point, and I didn't have this nice transition or the sunlight at the back, and so I kind of left a little bit disappointed with this one that I didn't see the portrait frame first. This was taken almost the same time, just looking over, I think it's Loch Damp, or is it Loch Shieldig? I can't remember. It's beautiful lighting conditions, but that is unfortunately all I can really say for it. I don't feel like the composition really works. Just this central loch, it draws your eye a bit too much. So a nice record shot. This one will probably go in my portfolio because I kind of like the starkness of it. This could almost be a wasteland that we're standing on here, and then the mountains on top. It sort of feels a bit surreal to me, and the color palette in the sky ties into that. The imbalance, I'm not quite sure on whether this is the right proportion of snow to mountains, but overall I really quite like this shot. It might be one that resonates with me and not others. I'm not sure. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. And then finally, this was the sort of grand scale panorama that I wanted to shoot. I shot it 5 or 6 times, in fact, but I've got 3 versions here to show you how the light changed. So this is just as the sun sets, you can see this soft sunlight clipping the mountains, and I was already happy with this one with the moon peeking out in the back there. Let's just zoom that in, and then as the sun set, the belt of Venus started to appear very, very faintly. So that's the pink colours you can see there, and the blues started to become richer. So this then was a shot that I preferred to the previous one. And one thing I do want to point out is how I framed the sides here. You can see I've just included a little bit of this rock because there was a rock just out of frame, just right here. So I couldn't frame any more to the left. And similarly here, there was another big black rock here, and so this is why I've set the edges of the frame where I am. But ideally what I want to do is continue these lines so that they close, and allow a bit more space here on the left. So compositionally it didn't quite cross all the T's and dot all the I's, but I would have been very, very happy with this shot, I have to say. But this was the final image that I took, in fact the last image of the day, and I'm really ecstatically happy with this shot. It's absolutely one of my favourites I've ever captured of Scotland. The lighting is absolutely beautiful, as good as twilight can get, and of course the moon adds an extra dimension to the shot. You can see I've resolved this corner issue. I really just got myself into a much more awkward and dangerous position, but yeah, I'm so happy with this image. And as the sun comes down, the light increasingly comes from the horizon where the sun is setting, so you get a stronger and stronger side light and richer blues, which is why the peaks here are lit up white, because they've got that more intense glow from the horizon, whilst everywhere that's shadowed is only lit by the blue sky above. So yeah, this is a shot that I will treasure, all 120 megapixels of it, I think it is. So it should print absolutely enormous. So yeah, that was my second vlog from Torridon. There's another 2 potentially to come. I'll have to edit them and see how they go. I did have to hand my my recording camera to one of the clients on one of those trips, because unfortunately his camera malfunctioned, so we'll see how that goes. But thank you very much to all those of you who commented on my last vlog. I really do appreciate the support. It's extremely time consuming putting together these videos, and difficult to record them. So I really appreciate any feedback and comments. It's really much appreciated, and I hope you can tune in for the next one.